Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kostuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kostuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the new year. It's coming up on us, a brand new year. Remember when you were little and you were like, what's it going to be like in 1984? And now it's 2023.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? I remember when I was little, I used to go, man, in 1984, I'm going to be like 18 years old, or in the year 2020, I'm going to be like this. Now it's like, yep, you're that old. Matter of fact, the age thing has been catching up with me a lot, Kostuba, lately, because I'm hanging out with my relatives yesterday, my brothers and sisters, and we're all just like mentioning, oh, how old are you? How old are you? It's just like, what happened to us? We all got old. We all went to sleep, woke up, and now we're the old people. Now we have become like when we would go home for the holidays and there were the old people there and we were all the kids having fun. Now we're the old people.
Okay. You sit at the old people table?
Up on you. Yeah, sit at the old people table. It's coming to you, Karuna. We got an 8-year-old girl, a 9-year-old girl listens to the show every day from Lebanon. And guess what, Karuna? You're going to be an old person too. No one escapes this.
4 Kumars seem to have escaped it.
The 4 Kumaras did escape it. Yes, they did. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Raghunath. Let's keep this moving. We got some.
Yeah, we had the Wisdom of the Sages extravaganza. Wonderful. Then we had the Super Soul spectacular. And yesterday there was the Merry Mara Marathon Christmas party.
Mary!
I just made that up now.
Over, right?
The Mary Mara Marathon at her house, and it was it was wonderful.
The festivities continued.
They just kept on continuing.
Mara, when he arrived there, was he over his grumpiness, or was he still in full grump mode?
Oh, he was over his grumpiness as soon as he walked in the door.
There's another
Thank
party.
I dropped off all the animals at Mara's house, packing that cottage.
You've got Gus?
I've got Gus and the 2 cats, and my brother and my niece is staying here. And I have a pretty small house, and I had 18 people here yesterday.
We just packed that place. She made some incredible polenta, though.
Thanks. Your polenta. I know you're a little picky about your polenta.
I'm very picky about my polenta. I'm a fine Epicurean of refined polenta, and then you passed the test, Mara.
Thank you.
It's very, very good.
Announcements.
Yeah. Okay.
Announcements, yeah. Keeping the show moving, Kostuba.
That's right.
Yeah, we got back to recovery group meetings today. The men meet at 1:00 and the women meet at 2:00. Okay. And then there's no show tomorrow, and Thursday and Friday our show will be at 7 a.m. Eastern time.
Got that, people? No show tomorrow. I'm taking the kids skiing. We're going to Vermont. We're going to go see the Waitsfield Inn, the Krishna Conscious Bed and Breakfast. And we're going to see Kelly Skinner and Srinivas, the bright lights of Vermont. Looking
Good
forward
people.
to it. Good people. We're trying to make this an annual thing for me and the kids. We're trying to establish new traditions.
Okay.
Traditions are good. What do you think about that?
Some of them.
You know what I got this morning when I woke up? I got a
Tell me.
poem in the mail. I got a poem
A
in the mail
poem?
by Rasa. The poem is by Rasa Khan. It was sent to me by Krishna Goswami, who was on the show on interview day. Great day on interview day. But this was by he was actually from Afghanistan, and he was Persian, and they traveled to Vrindavan with his mentor. He was a Sufi sort of mystic, and he went to Vrindavan.
You're
with
throwing
his
out so many terms. Persian.
Persian, Sufi, Afghani.
If someone's from Afghanistan, are they Persian? Or was it?
Not necessarily, but he was.
Okay.
Who knows where the borders lied. Load.
Or lane.
We're lane. Different maps are changing. So anyway, he had his mentor, and he was walking into Vrindavan, and he just fell
His mentor was
unconscious.
a Sufi, or
Yeah, his mentor was a Sufi, a Persian
Okay.
Sufi,
Yeah.
and he was walking Vrindavan, fell unconscious, became a very famous Krishna conscious poet. And he wrote this I want to read this to you because I think you'd like it.
Was this pre or post losing consciousness?
He came to consciousness, and he got initiated in the Pushti Marg by
Okay.
Vital Nath. His name was Ras Khan.
Yeah.
Ras Khan.
I've heard of him.
Listen to everyone, but don't say a word. In this way, you'll survive this world of birth and death. Mary, you already do this. You're always listening, and you're never talking. You gotta like twist your arm to make her talk. Okay, so listen to everyone, but don't say a word. In this way, you will survive the world of birth and death. Sincerely and truthfully perform your vows and austerities, and you will cross this ocean of mental realm. So that's another big ocean you got to cross, the mental realm. So you sincerely perform your vows and your austerities. Meet all with never a bad feeling towards them, but stay in the light of saintly company. Like that?
I like it.
Last one. And Rasa Khan says, worship Sri Krishna, the protector of the cows, in the same way that a village lady concentrates on the water pot balanced upon her head without touching it with her hands.
Say it again.
You like that?
Not yet. I need to hear it again.
Worship Krishna.
Yeah.
In the same way a village lady concentrates on that water pot, balancing on her head without touching it with her hands.
Okay, what does it mean? I don't understand.
It means like there's intense focus, but you'd never let it. It's like a deep internal connection with that water pot. All of her focus is on it, even though it sometimes doesn't necessarily appear like it's on it. Even when she's going through the course of the day, you see.
Oh, it's
walking
always
down the
there with
street,
you. It's like it's always
there with you. Sometimes they're in conversation. Sometimes they're doing things with their hands.
They got that pot of water up there.
But that pot of water is always there. We think of Krishna. Always keep him there, like that pot of water,
I like that.
like a village lady.
Okay, but that wasn't our nugget, Raghunath. You went off.
That wasn't our nugget. I went sort of like that was a rogue nugget I brought into town today.
All right. It was nice. I liked it.
Well, you know what's driving me crazy, Kostuba, is I ever see these posts on Instagram. It's like, what do they say? They say stuff like, be kind to all, yet take no crap. Ever hear see like oh, be loving to all, but take no stuff like that. Be kind to all, but take no. And I was thinking that is so not our philosophy in one sense. In one sense, it's not our philosophy. I'm not saying being a codependent doormat, but we're kind to all, and we do take crap. We actually take it. We take it on.
Okay.
Yeah, we take it. You want to crap on me? You crap. You want to? What's a better word than crap? We're like compost buckets. You just dump your compost on me, and and we'll turn it to gold. And if someone offends a devotee, that's when we lose our cool. We don't take any crap when someone offends a devotee. When someone offends a devotee, then we come up like a phoenix. We rise and we get really angry.
Okay.
And that's okay. Because it's not about us, but we are practicing complete tolerance.
Okay.
So I don't like
yeah,
those,
I mean, it
I don't like
depends.
those memes.
Well, I think it depends on how you interpret it, though, isn't it?
What do you think? What do you think?
Well, in other words, one can remove themselves from situations where one is not being treated well, or
Yeah. Okay.
but yeah.
I
Any
think
case, why are you bringing this up? Why don't we get to our actual nugget today?
well, this is a very, very nugful nugget.
Okay, but the nugget that I
you know
chose
why I was
ties
just
into the whole
scrolling
show,
through
so the show
Instagram and
kind
that
of has
came
like
up.
a.
Okay, I'm sure that ties in with something in the show today. I will bring it full circle before the end of this show.
Or just let it go. Just let it go.
Or I'll bring it back with depth.
Let's go into today's nugget.
All right, today's
There's
nugget.
plenty there.
There's lots of nuggets here. All right. External. Nope. Here's a nugget. All that counts in life.
No.
Oh no, that was yesterday's nugget. You did a lot of texting to me this morning. It threw me off. Oh, look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better.
Sounds relatively simple.
Look into nature, and then you will.
It doesn't say just look into nature. Raghunath, you're going so fast. You're skipping maybe the most important word.
I think that was too fast. Slow that down. Say that again. It's slower.
You're missing the most important word.
Thank you. Now we can understand you.
Are you going to read it again or no?
Look deep
into
nature. Look deep into nature.
Deep into nature.
And then you'll understand everything much, much better.
And that's something for who said that?
That was Albert Einstein. And he was famous for his hair and his intelligence.
Yeah. Look deep into nature, Raghunath, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see, the way that I understand this is that you can, I suppose maybe there are more options, but here's two fundamental ways of looking at existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is that there's meaning in everything, right? That the ways that the planets are revolving, and the ways that the trees are growing, and the relationship between the moon and the vegetation and the ocean and the sun, and that there's not only meaning and organization behind it all, but there's actually like lessons to learn about life through it, right?
Oh,
that actually it's purposeful, that there's a purpose behind nature beyond just its random existence, that we are meant to look at it, and not just look at it, but to look deep into it as a way of learning some essential message that has something to do with what life is all about. That's one assumption one can make.
How about the artist behind the art of nature? That's where I went to. I was driving.
I didn't finish what I was saying.
Oh, I thought you were in a natural pause there.
Well, I said there were two things, and I said one, and then it helps if you say the other right after.
I was commenting on the first one.
Okay. All right.
Commenting by bringing a whole different angle.
You're going to, you're commenting on it by ignoring it.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead. Say what you want to say if you want.
No, forget it. You.
Okay. So then
I want to hear your number two.
Do you remember number one?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I'll repeat it. That there's one way to look at life and to look at nature, and that's the idea that there is a meaning behind it all, that there's a purpose behind it all, that there's a lesson, let's say lessons, or even a fundamental lesson that we're meant to learn through nature. And that lesson is being taught everywhere we look, like one can derive meaning from looking at nature, especially nature itself, right? Like, especially like being in the forest or being by the ocean or being in the mountains, it's especially vivid in nature. And then there's another way of looking at it, is that this is all just a random chemical, purposeless, in one sense, meaningless movement of chemicals, and that's all that's going on. And I lean towards the first, right? That there really is something there, but it does require that you look deep into it, and that thoughtful people make this an important part of their life, right? They kind of like they choose to, they begin to clue in on it. They begin to understand that there's something being taught here, and so many wise people from so many traditions have picked up on this. You can blow it off and say, oh, people are being sentimental and they're trying to make more of what's actually there. But then you get someone like Einstein, who's like this brilliant scientist, brilliant physicist, and he's seeing there's something here, right? It's speaking to us. If we look deep into it, we understand not only like one thing better, we understand everything better.
Yeah. It's there's too much damn intelligence behind what's going on here to wipe out a supreme intelligence as well. I'm just thinking. There's too much artistic genius behind the macro. You were talking about the sun and the moon. I was like, even go into a snowflake. The snowflake is too damn magical to see that there's no magician behind this stuff as well. The leaf, a maple leaf is so damn breathtaking to see that there's no artist behind the art. The creation without a creator is it's too unbelievable. So
it requires too much faith.
It requires too much faith that this is all coming from nothing. It requires too much faith. But and then as you tune into that, then you go to that next phase of like, and now what are all the lessons from this? Now what are all the lessons from this?
Here's another nugget that speaks to that, Raghunath. This is from Gretel Ehrlich, American travel writer, poet, and essayist.
And sister of Hansel.
Okay. And she writes, everything in nature. Now she's going to go more into like what that lesson is, or where that lesson directs one, right? Or those lessons. Everything in nature, think about this, Raghunath. Yeah. Everything in nature invites us constantly to be what we are. Right? To be what we are. That there's some existential truth, right, about who we are that's being taught not only through nature, but being taught through nature constantly, right? The changing of the seasons, the birth, growth, reproduction, dwindling, death, all that we're seeing in it. It's not only teaching us to be at peace, you could say, or teaching us to appreciate beauty or something, but it's actually calling us, inviting us to be what we truly are. Now, what is that? We need to figure out, right?
Sure.
But you can begin to feel these connections.
That's why this wisdom added just to our life, the Bhagavatam wisdom added to our life, all the things that sort of can depress you or sort of like make you think. It gives sort of depth. It steers us towards a higher direction, an upgrading direction. Like being around my brothers and sisters the other day for the holidays and just getting that revelation, like, and now we're old and now we're the old ones. That in and of itself is just, it can be depressing. It could be sort of like, it could be a little bit uplifting, but as people practicing a bhakti path, it becomes like, yeah. And now it brought up, for me, it brought up 1,000 things. Like, and now who am I going to be? What example am I going to be? What have my, say, brothers and sisters, what good things do they have that I think I could adopt? Or what am I breaking any traumatic bloodlines, by going a different path and creating a whole different bloodline for my children by my choices? What kind of like some scars am I giving to my bloodline now? And so those same things that happen anyway, by observing nature with a twist of wisdom in there, it makes the whole aging process, the viewing process of seeing family, of seeing, and this uncle died and this child was born. You just start seeing with a whole new set of lenses, and everything becomes almost like a magical mystery tour, like a like you're tripping almost, like, and you get realizations from all these things in the same way you would if a person was on some type of hallucinogenic. But we're doing it with the goggles of wisdom spoken by the acharyas. And then there are even ordinary dealings and just analyzing these things. It becomes a little bit enlightening instead of just a mundane family party.
Nice. So you really went deep there. That
I
thing.
went deep.
How'd you come out so grumpy the next morning? I guess just some dark existential truths you came in contact with.
I was really grumpy yesterday.
Or was it just the
Really
cannoli?
grumpy. It wasn't cold. It was just grumpy.
No, the cannoli, I said.
Oh, it's cannoli. Yeah. It was cold and cannolis and yeah.
All right.
I'm allowed to be emotional, Kastuba.
No, I know, Raghunath. I know. I just want you to be happy. That's all.
Do you?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we get into the Bhagavatam now?
Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttamaśloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana-timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet.
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 31, Text 11.
You with us, Raghu?
Yeah,
it up.
I was going
Pull
to
it
say, are you with me?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right. Hit it. Should we have a little recap?
Usually you talk.
All right.
Usually you say something. Usually you rewind it a little, but I will.
I can.
Text
if you
11.
like.
Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities? The process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. What's the meaning of it all without bhakti? Great verse, isn't it?
You know, it is a great verse. And, you know, we were just hearing yesterday this kind of juxtaposition we're talking about, remember? It spoke about how external imperfection doesn't matter when one purpose is selfless, right? I may not have had the best, most fortunate birth.
Sure.
Right. My speech, I may not be able to articulate myself very well. You know, I may even be born with a crazy mind, you know, like a mind that's like prone to go this way and that direction. But if my internal purpose is selfless, if my internal purpose is devotional, it makes up for all the imperfections. They don't become important, because ultimately the way that this world is moving and the lessons that I'm meant to be learning is ultimately bringing me to devotion. And then the opposite is, or not the opposite, but and then looking at from the other way, external perfection becomes imperfect, right? Or you could say like almost like hollow if it's misdirected, if one's intentions are selfish. So even though you might have just the right birth and you might be able to articulate yourself very well, or, you know, so many other things it was speaking about, they're almost wasted. It's like the ladder up against the wrong wall kind of thing. You know, it may be a really good ladder, but it's going the wrong direction. Right? Sure.
And the converse is true too. I've met people who aren't that sharp, not that bright, not the, you know what I mean? By regular standards, you'd call them a dum-dum, but deeply wise. Like what they do know is just, they have direction, and they're just sort of in a slower machine.
Yeah.
But, you know, what good is, you know, you're a powerful speaker. So what? Hitler was a powerful speaker. Well, what did you do with your speech?
Yeah.
Did you liberate people with your speech, or did you condemn yourself and everybody around you and cause chaos, havoc, and cruelty? So it's not just to be a great orator, right? And I know people who are like, ever meet a person who's like a very deep and philosophical, but they're miserable, or they use their philosophy to justify their bad behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like, what good is that mental speculation or that philosophical insight, elevated intelligence, etc.? And then you get into strength and power of the senses, etc. What good is it if you're, hot and ripped and strong and, CrossFit black belt? Who cares if you're sort of disconnected from yourself as a contribution? If all those qualities just endorse your ego, you're just getting lost in the material world. That's why
Maybe
without
even
bhakti,
faster, right?
huh?
Maybe even faster.
Maybe even faster. And sometimes that intelligence, that prowess, those good looks, that good karma actually works against you instead of for you.
Now, the things that Narada is mentioning, and this is so important, right? Because this is Narada. Who's Narada? Narada is the guru of Vyasadeva himself, right? Narada is the person that taught the person that wrote all of the Vedic literature. He's
Trivia question, Mara, who's Narada's guru?
I don't know.
Got her.
Who's his father?
Brahma.
There you go.
There you go. Back to knitting. Read more comic books, please.
Yeah, we're gonna have to study up on your comic books a little bit more than that. So Narada, it's so significant that Vyasadeva is highlighting his teachings here in the penultimate, the conclusive book, Srimad Bhagavatam, that's trying to get to the bottom of everything. And he's defining devotion as most important. It's devotion that makes all our qualities valuable. Without devotion, even our great qualities, they're meaningless, they're hollow, they're lost, they're misdirected. With devotion, all of our shortcomings are unimportant, because the whole point was to come to devotion. The entire primary lesson meant to be taught through the functioning of this world is the need to reestablish our devotional connection to our source. Right. And so what he's doing now is he's going through his own teachings, in a sense. He's written books that talk about here he says severe austerities. Right. He's written books about austerities. He's written books about great tapasvis and the spiritual path that they walked and the value in that, the process of hearing. Right. He's written books about this, the power of mental speculation. All the Upanishads are talking about reflection on these deep truths.
Right.
Elevated intelligence, elevated strength, the power of the senses. These are things that in the Vedas, people go to priests to perform rituals so that they'll have powerful senses, powerful intelligence, more strength, So he's saying about all those teachings, it really has no real value without devotion. And now he's going to go even deeper into this. He's really going to speak to the Upanishadic teachings and say that without devotion, all that stuff, someone like Shankara interpreted it the other way, where he was saying devotion is good because it can bring you to mystic yoga practices,
right,
to renunciation and so on. Here it's going to say renunciation, mystic yoga practices without devotion, they're useless. Yeah, hit text 12. Hit that one.
Yeah. He basically just said,
Yeah, maybe he said it just like that.
Yeah. Transcendental practices that do not ultimately help one realize the Supreme Personality Godhead are useless, be they mystic yoga practices, the analytical study of matter, severe austerity,
That's Sankhya, right?
the acceptance of sannyas, or the study of Vedic literature. All these may be very important aspects of a spiritual advancement, but unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, all these processes are useless.
So that's a heavy, conclusive, very heavy statement, because so much has been argued in favor of these things in his own texts, right? He's spoken about austerities and all.
Yeah, there's vast books and literature, and
he's saying don't misunderstand.
Lineages.
Yeah, He's saying don't misunderstand that the value of all of that, the value of Vedic literature, the value of mystic yoga, the value of Sankhya and analytical study of matter, the value of renunciation, the acceptance of sannyasa, the value of all of it is that it leads towards devotion. And if you miss that point, you've missed the point, right?
It's
You've
one
missed
thing
the
when you
primary
study the
lesson.
when you study the Gita, you can sort of like take it different ways, and interpreters have. When you start studying the Bhagavatam, there can be no other way except
Yeah.
towards devotion.
Very clear. Towards it's establishing love is the highest principle, very clearly.
That's a T-shirt,
There you
Mara.
go.
Knit that
Love is
one
the
up.
highest principle.
Knit me a sweater, Mara, that says love is the highest principle. Have you ever knitted
We
a
gotta see
sweater,
that.
Mara?
No, I haven't.
And
You're
that's
just
be a
good at like the
challenge.
long scarpy things.
I think that's the next step. Sweater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sleeves with cuffs. And you do and a collar, and then words on it like love. What is it? Love is the
Highest principle.
highest
love is the
principle.
highest principle.
Okay.
I'll work on that.
Now things are gonna get interesting. That now here, let's see, text 13. Oh yeah, retext. Did you just read 13? Yeah, this kind of concludes
12.
it up.
I'm on 12, I think.
You just read 12.
I didn't read 12.
You did read 12.
I don't think I
You're on
did.
13.
He did. It was the one that keeps saying useless.
Oh yes, useless.
Right.
Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the goal. That's where the compass is set. How do I get to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti are all meant to bring you there. They're not meant to be. We're driving to LA. There might be nice ways, stop-offs on the way. But if you get to Scranton and you're appreciating Scranton, don't stop in Scranton. The goal is you're going all the way across the country to the Pacific Ocean. Do not stop in Scranton. You can stop, or you can stop in Scranton. Just don't set up house there if the goal is LA. So in the same way, karma, jnana, yoga, etc., all interesting, all deep, all useful, if they're put in context of where we're going with all this stuff.
And you know what, Raghunath, what Nard is about to do so nicely here. He just everything what we're hearing before could have been interpreted as like religious dogma. Ultimately,
Sure.
none of these things are important unless you have devotion for God. You got to have devotion for God. But here he's going to begin to kind of I don't know if shift gears is right, but his message is going to kind of blossom here. Out of anything that could be interpreted as like purely religious. And he's going to give the reason why devotion to God is important. Here he hints at it. He says because ultimately because the Lord is the original source, right? Because everything's coming from that source. He actually uses this term here. He says Atma Da. So Da means to give, and Atma Da means he gives us our identity. Like our very identity is in relation to that being, right? The identity of the leaf isn't individual. The identity of the leaf is in relation to the tree, right? And so in this way, the source of the leaf, the tree itself, the leaf is existentially connected with the tree. And similarly, he's saying, I'm not just saying this because I want you to join a particular religion. What I'm saying is that you have an existential connection, like a leaf to a tree, to God. And in recognizing that and in harmonizing yourself with that, you achieve the purpose of life. You reestablish yourself. It's so important. And now in order to establish this, he's not going to give religious dogma. He's going to say, look deep into nature. Right? Look at the examples that are there in nature, and you'll find that it's speaking this message, how everything comes from a source and returns to that source. And that's what's going to happen with our bodies. That's what's going to, and ultimately that's what's meant to happen with our words, with our mind, with our very heart. It comes from God. It's meant to be returned to God. Our own individual or you could say the love of God which comes to us and is meant to be returned. That you'll see these cycles in nature. Just look at nature and you see how this is all playing out. So don't just accept it as like some kind of religious rules and regulations. Just look into nature and try to, I had a whole lot of nature nuggets today.
Oh yeah.
But some of them went in the direction that I'm speaking about now. Like this is coming from Zeno. Do you know who Zeno is?
No, I don't.
I think Zeno
is.
Zeno is
Sounds like a clown. Oh,
No.
Zeno the clown. He was at my birthday party.
he was not a clown, Raghunath. He was like the father of Stoicism.
Acha.
And he says the goal of living, it's a very simple short sentence but so profound. The goal of life is living in agreement with nature. Okay, in other words, are my desires and my actions drawing me? Have I become a competitor with nature, or have I learned to live in agreement with nature? And I think what Nard is saying is the same thing. Look into nature and see how everything returns to its source. Are you fighting against the source? Or are you reconnecting with the source? Are you going through a natural loving back and forth with the source? Now this was said by Joseph Campbell. He said, the goal of life is to make your heartbeat. And when we say heartbeat, right, that could mean like our desires, right? Like what we want in our heart.
Yeah,
right?
passions.
Yeah, our passions. So the goal of life is to make your heartbeat match the beat of the universe.
Ooh.
To match your nature with nature.
Ooh.
Okay. So again, when we say nature from Narada's perspective, he means, when he speaks of nature, he's speaking of Krishna's divine energy, right? Krishna's energy is my independent will working against Krishna's natural flow? And if so, it's because it is that I feel pain, that I feel frustration, that I feel depression, that I feel boredom, that I feel anger, that I feel hatred. These are arising in me because I'm going against my natural flow. Now look back towards nature. Try to see how everything flows from the source and back to the source. And there's a clue, an existential clue about life, you'll find everywhere you look in nature. So now Nard is going to speak to the Prachetas and he's going to start to give them really powerful analogies from nature. And I think you're going to find some verses here that you are familiar with and have great appreciation for, Raghunath.
Oh, good. All right, here we go.
Text 14.
As pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, the branches, the twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through bhakti automatically satisfies all of the demigods who are parts of that Supreme Personality. Is this the famous verse?
Yeah.
This is the famous verse.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's not.
Well,
I'm thinking
works
of
for
another
me.
one. No,
Okay.
it's worthy of fame. It's not the
Okay.
famous verse I'm thinking of the one. No, I'm thinking of the one, your debts. Once you pay your debt to the personality of Godhead,
It may just be translated in a different way, but
no, it's a different verse.
all right.
You know what I'm
In any
talking
case,
about.
or is that from 10th Canto? In any case, it's the same message, right? He's reaching into nature. He uses two analogies here that are saying look into nature for existential clues, right?
Right.
One is that when you want to, if you are concerned for the well-being of a leaf on a tree, you don't go and pour water on the leaf. You direct it to the roots, right? And through the roots, not only that leaf, but every leaf benefits, because the very identity of every leaf, by nature, right? It's by its very essence, most essentially, its purpose, its identity, is in relation to the root. It has no true separate identity.
This is real activism. Real activism means we go right to the root of the problem. This disconnection with our with source, with understanding that everything is part of source. Like where I'm going with this?
I do. Yeah. In other words, you're expanding it further, right? Like if my identity is in relation to the root, then let me dedicate all my efforts in my devotion to the root, realizing that through that, I serve every living being, right? So and in another sense, whatever harm there is, whatever suffering there is, I don't just look at the surface, at the symptom, but as you're saying, you go to the root of the problem. Whatever the problem may be, its roots will be found in its disconnection from its original source. That's the very cause of our sufferings.
Nityananda Chandra, who is Slokanath, Lord of Slokas, saying this is a famous verse. I was thinking of Devarshi Bhutapta Nrinam Pitrinam Nakinkaram.
Okay,
once you pay the debt back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you're no longer a debtor to anybody, including the demigods, the forefathers, the etc.
Right, it's a very similar message.
Similar message, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a same message, but here it's going ahead and using the nature analogy, and it uses a second analogy, which is the stomach, right?
Good analogy.
Yeah, it's like you could even say, well, come on, couldn't you water the leaf? And it's what if I want my eyes to be healthy? Can I stuff food into them? No, you have to feed the stomach.
I've tried that. I want to be one of these people that just knows the Bhagavatam inside out, and I'm realizing like I'm already old. How much time do I have?
Well, you know what it said, Raghunath?
What?
That you do sadhana like you're going to die tomorrow, but you study as if you're going to live forever. So don't think I'm too old to become an expert in Bhagavatam.
Yeah, I've just got to keep reading the Bhagavatam.
Just keep reading it.
It's really what you do on your downtime.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So now he's gonna use the next he's showing, and now he's gonna show more clearly that these next analogies are good. He just used the leaf to the tree or to the root, and the stomach to the rest of the body. And now he's going to get, now what he wants to illustrate through nature is that everything, this is why, he was giving all these verses about devotion and why it's more important than learning and why it's more important than renunciation and why it's more important than austerity and so on and so forth. He's addressing his own Vedic teachings, saying, don't miss the point. Now, and he's saying, look at nature. The message is not just me saying this. If you look into nature, as Einstein was saying, look deep into nature, you will understand everything. So now he's gonna point to nature to help understand that this is the reason why devotion is important, because everything is generated from and returns to its original source, including you, right? And look, we can see that, and I'll give you some more examples of it, and that's what he does in this text 15.
Sure. Text 15. Oops, I already did it. Let me go back one. I already went to 15. Text 15. During the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time, during the summer season, the very same water is again absorbed by the sun. Similarly, all living entities moving and inert are generated from the earth, and again, after some time, they all return to the earth as dust. Similarly, everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in due course of time, everything enters into him again.
There you go. Right. This is a powerful one about the water. Right. During the rainy season, water is generated from the sun. How's water generated from the sun?
Well, it lifts the sun into the air, stores in clouds.
But how can you describe
evaporation, evaporation, condensation, precipitation.
Yes. All of the
there you got that right. Those three down.
Tying it all together.
That's right. The sun heats lesson the earth, in meteorology.
Right? You're good. I didn't know you were so.
Well, I'm a part-time meteorologist, part-time botanist.
Okay, very small amounts of time, but very tiny parts.
Gentleman farmer.
But the sun heats the earth, right?
Yeah.
And by the earth being heated, the lower air that's in contact with the earth becomes warmed. And when that air becomes warmer, it naturally rises. And as it's rising, there's a quick cooling that takes place, right?
Mhm.
And there's a difference in air pressure, and it causes the temperature drop causes water vapor to condense.
Mhm.
And when enough of that condensation collects, you have a cloud. So the cloud is basically the work of the sun, right? It's like the sun made the cloud happen. And then that water's released and it goes back, and it's going back and forth, right? So during the rainy season, water is generated from the sun in the form of a cloud. And in due course of time, during the summer season, that very same water is again absorbed by the sun, right? It comes from the cloud, it returns to the cloud. Or you could say it comes from the sun, it returns to the sun. He's saying, just like that, don't see, just see the very energy that's given to you is meant to be given back, right? Your speech, your words, your actions, they're meant to be devotional. They're meant to be offered in devotion back to the source from which they came from, right? And in that formula, you find happiness. In that formula, you find satisfaction. That's the lesson that nature's teaching us. That's what we're meant to understand. It's nice, huh?
That's a nice lesson.
Do you want to read a couple more?
Let's do one more.
Okay, one more.
This is 16.
Yeah.
Just as the sunshine is non-different from the sun, the cosmic manifestation is also non-different from the supreme personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
Right? What is the sunshine? It's just emanating from the sun. You can't really say it's different, even though it is different.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The supreme personality of Godhead is therefore all pervasive within this material creation.
It's all his energy.
What a great way to understand it. Like when people say, it's all God. The ocean is my God. The forest is my God, right? The Grand Canyon is my God. It's all your God, yes, but
There's still more.
But there's a cowherd child.
Okay.
Also, don't forget that. When the senses are active, they appear to be part and parcel of the body. But when the body is asleep, their activities are unmanifest. Similarly, the whole cosmic creation appears different and yet non-different from the supreme person. Booyah.
Yeah. When you go to sleep, you're not hearing, you're not seeing, you're not touching. All your senses are apparently inert, apparently disconnected. But then when you wake back up again, you realize, oh no, they're part of what they always were. And in the same way, right, this very universe, it goes through different cycles. Right? This is speaking on a very grand scale. But there are times when the universe is asleep, and there are times where it becomes awake again. And so he's pointing out everything through nature, right? Everything that I've written in the Vedic literatures, he's saying you can see it all there in nature. And by looking at it in nature, it should give us, you said something earlier that to believe that there's no artist or no designer behind it requires too much faith. There's far too much evidence that this has been designed, that there's a designer behind it, that it's art and there's an artist behind it, that it's in one sense you could say that it's a message and there's a messenger behind it. And so rather than just speak a religious doctrine, Narada is pointing at nature and saying, these messages are all around us all the time. I'm just telling you to look at them and see them and understand it, right? All of this is consistent. And all
the
of this
language
is
of nature.
It's the
Read
language
of nature.
Yeah, and it'll help you understand all these most important existential truths. And the most fundamental one is that ultimately, we come from a source, and our very identity is in connection to that source through feelings of devotion. That's called bhakti.
Sure. And there's spiritual life in a cannoli, right? It's hard. The shell is hard.
Outside.
If you can puncture the shell, there's something soft. There's something sweet. There's something creamy. If you can go inside and not stay on the outer limits of the cannoli. That's
Very
cannoli
good.
wisdom.
Cannoli wisdom from Raghunath. Thank you. Mara, do you have any wisdom?
Do you have any wisdom for us beyond
do.
cannoli wisdom? Beyond nature wisdom?
I got some good stuff.
Does everybody even know what a cannoli is? Because we've been talking about that a lot.
I got some good stuff.
There's no escaping aging.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rago, are you listening? You're on
better.
your phone.
Someone.
You see.
Be kind to all and take
A
others' crap.
detective?
Be kind to all.
Bear's not taking any crap anymore.
A snowflake is too magical not to have an artist behind it.
Wait a second. What did you say before that? Be kind to all, but take no crap. That's what we said.
Take
We don't
others'
believe
crap.
it.
No, I said take
You
others'
said-
crap.
yeah.
Be kind
Yeah.
to all and take others' crap.
Okay, there we go. Shiva G life coaching isn't a no. Codependence. No, don't do it.
You see,
Take no crap.
I think that's a bit of a dangerous message just to leave it hanging out there like that.
Well,
You
yeah.
live dangerously, huh? You like to walk that edge.
I think that's a show in itself. We could talk about that.
Okay.
Okay.
A snowflake is too magical not to have an artist behind it.
Have you examined the snowflake with a magnifying glass, Ragnar?
Yeah, I have. Matter of fact.
Okay.
I've examined one of my nose just looking at it. Landed on my nose, landed on my tongue. I was driving in the driveway yesterday, and it was frozen. The snow froze, and it looked like everything was sparkling. I was like, oh my God, kids, wake up. Look at this. It's unbelievable. It was magical.
Wow.
It was magical.
Thank you for sharing that magic. Ragnar.
No, I'm serious. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow. See the lessons and meaning in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but boring.
What good
Nothing
are
like
your
Ragnar's magic, like Ragnar's snow magic.
right? What good are your good qualities if you're disconnected?
Yeah,
What
I
good are your
guess.
good qualities?
Austerities and rituals without devotion is useless.
Mhm.
Austerity.
We didn't say it. Vyas said it.
We didn't say it. I think I did say it in a song. Austerities without, I can't remember something I said in a shelter song. Go on.
Don't set up house in Scranton if the goal is LA.
Mhm.
Nah, don't do it.
What if the goal is
What if
Scranton?
the goal is Scranton? That's different.
Then
then
you
you're
can
in
set up house
Scranton,
there.
then set up house.
Love is the highest principle.
There you go.
That's the shirt. That's the sweater. That's the sweater.
That's the sweater. Match your heartbeat with the divine beat of nature.
Boom, boom,
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom.
Nourish the root. That
Nourish
could be
it.
a sweater too.
Sounds
Mhm.
weird. Nourish the root.
He's in his judgmental stage. That one sounds weird. That one's good. That one I don't like.
How
That's
about
my opinion.
That was
anyway.
boring.
evaporation, condensation, and precipitation?
Very important.
It's sort of like a rap
Mm.
song. Emancipation through evaporation. Anticipation.
And the
And-
cannoli is holy.
Condensation. Condensation. What was the other one, Mara? What's
Cannoli
that?
is
Cannoli is
holy.
holy.
What is holy?
The
A
offered
cannoli.
cannoli.
A cannoli can be holy.
It can be
Yes.
if it's been offered with devotion.
Well, not
And if
just
not,
that.
it's just a hollow shell.
Oh, I like
Ooh.
that.
Yeah.
That will leave you hungover
If you have too many, I suppose.
and congested.
You don't sound
Well,
congested. All right.
I'm not congested.
Do a little what you call it?
teapots.
Yeah.
Just nothing but cannoli creams coming out of my skull.
Kastuba, safe travels. We're not going
Thank
to see you again until
you.
India.
Yeah,
When's
that's-
Kostuba leaving?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow, Kostuba. How many layovers do you have? Do you have any? You don't have a direct flight, do you?
One layover.
Where?
Switzerland, I believe.
Ooh, Switzerland. Swiss wisdom of the sages. People show up at the airport with kirtan, bang drums,
Come on.
bring pie, celebrate the arrival of Kostuba.
No need. No need.
See, he's so
He's
humble.
simple, Ragu.
I'm a simple person.
He's going to, Mara, send out an email. Pie, bring pie. That was a good idea.
But been 3 years since I've been to India.
Wow.
Be nice to go back.
Changed radically, Kostuba. It's completely different now.
No?
I think the Eco Village has had a lot of changes. I'm excited to see
I
the
think it has too.
upgrades.
Yeah.
They
3 years.
introduced snakes into the environment, the ecosystem.
I've seen snakes there before.
To get rid of. I'm just kidding. Yeah, they're
Big snakes. Big
There's some
snakes.
big snakes. Everyone's like, okay, return my ticket right now. They're dropping off. There's snakes.
But
There's
I've also
peacocks.
seen chameleons.
Oh yeah, lots of chameleons. There's also peacocks now.
Really?
Yeah, I think there are.
All right.